Hello, this is the second video in Endless Runner series in which we are going to create animations. So let's start by creating animation folder inside of our hierarchy. Let's call it any animations. And before we can create animations, we need to make sure our sprites are imported. So let's open the images folder. Right, last lesson we only imported idle sprite, but there is some additional sprites which need to be imported, such as fall, jump, and run. So let's just drag them into our project. Also, they need to be configured. We already configured fall. We need to do the same for others. So let's select them. And as the same as before, I need to select filter, no filter. I need to disable compression. And in idle, we set pixels per unit 24. So let's do the same for those. So now they are the same size. Also, we need to make sure they are cut correctly. So let's open sprite editor and let's do it not automatically by cell count. So we have one column and two rows. I'm sorry, one row and two column. Let's click it slice and apply. And we need to repeat the same for all of the others. So now let's open the jump, open sprite editor. So for jump, we also have two. So let's do the same. Oh, sorry, I think we just did jump. So now we need to do the fall. So it looks like it's parsed correctly. I believe, oh, jump, yeah. So jump, let's repeat the same, slice, apply, and finally we have the run. Open sprite editor, we have a bit more, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So slice, and we have 8. So our images is ready. Now we can start creating animations. So for animation, we need animation controller. This will be component which we are going to add to the player. So first, let's create one. So we can, like there is two ways. I can create it from here, animation, animation controller, and let's it call player. So now I need to drag this animation controller to the player. And now player has this component. So next, I'm going to create clips folder because we're going to create few animation clips. And let's start by creating them. So we need animation, animation clip. This will be jump, and let's just duplicate this 4 times. It will be jump, fall, then it will be idle, and finally it will be the run. So now let's start creating those animations. So first of all, here we have tab animator, which can be opened here inside of the window animation animator. This where we are going to configure our animation transition, and another tab which is we need is animation. This where animation itself would be created. So we have the if I click on the player and I have animator tab is open, it will open this window where we have animation transitions. So I can right now drag all of those animations here. Later we're going to delete, but let's keep it here for now. And then inside of the animation, here I have four animations which we are going to create. We would need these samples, which right now I have 60, but it's disabled by default. So to add this samples tab here, you need to click these three dots. Sorry, not this. These three dots and choose show sample rate. So let's start by creating fall animation and other. So I need to go to the images. So we have two pictures of the fall, but I think we're going to use one for now. I don't see reason to use the second. So what I'm going to do is simply drop this image into our timeline. Samples in our example doesn't really matter. So next, let's do jump. For jump, it's the same. Only one sprite is required. And now we have the idle. So for idle, I'm going to use all of the images. So we have 4 of them. And let's switch to the game. Let's zoom it. And when I click, you see it's moving too fast. It's because we have samples set to the 60. But if I change it something like to the 10, and I played it. I think it moves fine. And finally, we need to create run animation. So select all of the images for run animation, drag them here. Again, 60 is too fast. I think 10 should be fine. So now when I click, you see it's running. Okay, so now we have animations clip created. We also need to make sure for fall we don't have loop time, but we have it enabled for idle. So that means that when animation is over, it will start from the beginning, but we don't need this for the jump. And same for the run, because if like these images need to repeat over and over once we are running. So now we are ready to open this animator tab and configure here transition between animations. So first we have the entry. This is which animation would play by default. So for example, I can choose set default state to the idle, and then when I run the game, player should be immediately in the idle state. You see? And also we need configure transition between all of those states. But we're going to use a bit different approach, which is called blend tree. So I would remove this. But if you want to configure the transitions, I would click my transition. And here I need to specify a condition in which case fall animation would be applied. But let's delete all of this. And create state from new blend tree. We would have two blends tree. First would be idle run. And second would be jump and fall. So let's call this jump fall. So we can still use previous approach, but I think in this case it has a bit more sense. So now we have this blend parameter. So let's rename. We would need two blend parameter, x velocity, and we would need another float parameter, which is y velocity. So those parameters would be responsible for detecting if we are moving. So if x velocity is 0, that means player is not moving, idle animation is going to play. And if x velocity is not 0, we are going to switch to the run animation. Same for the jump fall. So if y velocity is higher than is 1, we're going to jump, and if it's -1, we're going to fall. And also we need one additional parameter is grounded, because we do not allow player to jump when it's already in the air. And if you remember in previous video, we already created parameter such is grounded. So I'm going to define it here. Is grounded. Now we need to think about transition. So by default, when game is started, player run idle run animation, and because of x velocity equal to 0, so it will be idle. We want to jump from any state, like if player is running, if player is walking or doing anything, we can jump. So that's why we have this any state, and we can make this transition, to the jump fall state. But we need to add the condition when, in which case jump fall animation is played. But first, make sure has exit time set to the 0 and transition duration set to the 0 also, because we want animation to be changed immediately without any delay. And finally, we have the condition. So let's add the condition. So this animation need to play when we are not on the ground. So I go into select is grounded false. So anytime when is grounded set to false, jump or fall animation would play. And then when we touch the ground, we need to switch to the idle or run animation. So I'm going to make the transition from jump fall to idle run. Make sure has exit time disabled, transition duration set to the 0. And another parameter is grounded to true. So if it's grounded false, play jump fall animation is played, and when ground is set to true, we switch to the idle run animation. So now it's time to configure the animation itself. So to open this blend tree, I need to double click on this. And now I have on the blend tree where I have this X velocity where I can configure it. So we need to add two motions, first motion and second motion. And in our case, it would be idle and it will be run. It has this automate threshold, but let's remove it and let's manage it manually in case we want to change something. So what do we have here? Threshold 0. So when X velocity is set to the 0, idle animation is executed. And when threshold set to 1, but 1 is too much. I think we need to change this to the one that is 0.1. And now let's experiment. So I'm going to open game here and let's start the game. So by default, nothing is happening. For some reason, animation is not played. Let's check here. Okay, I think it's because player is not on the ground. So let's complete this and we will see how it works. Or maybe I can, is it on the ground? No, I think it's not touching the ground. I don't know, maybe let's move it like this and let's try it again. And make sure, so when is grounded, set to true. Player, like this idle animation is executed. But once I switch X velocity to the 0.1, it's immediately started to run and went back to the 0. And you see it's working. So now we need to repeat the same for jump fold. So let's go here. But this time we're not going to use X velocity. We have another parameter which is called Y velocity. So we're going to use Y velocity. Again, we need two motion fields. First would be jump and the second would be fall. And let's remove automate thresholds. So when Y velocity is 1 or bigger, that means we are jumping. And when it's -1, that means we are falling. So now let's experiment. Let's move player here. So it's make sure it's not grounded. Let's start the game and it should be in falling animation. So when is Y velocity is -1 is falling, when is 1 is jumping. So here in the animator, we configured everything. All of the transition is set. Now it's time to open the code and make sure we change the state when it's required. So let's go to the script. Let's go to the player. Let's click new window. So here is our code. To be able to control animations, we need animator component. In the similar way how we did with the rigid body, we need to repeat the same with animator. So let's create private field called animator. And inside of the start method, I'm going to retrieve animator component. So what would happen here? It will, let's wait for it to compile. And what would happen if it check if animator component is present, it will return me animator component. If not, null will be returned and most likely we'll get the error. So now when we have the animator, we can configure the animations. Let's create new method. Oh, it also would be private. Void, nothing is returned, and let's call it handle animations. Handle animation. So inside here, we have this parameter animator, and this animator can change the value of those parameters which we have here, X velocity, Y velocity, and is grounded. So that's what we need to do. So first we have is grounded. So I'm going to use set bool. Name of the parameter is grounded. It's like better to go here and copy the value. Just make sure there is no errors. Otherwise, it's not going to work. And we are assigning here this is grounded, which we created in the previous video. This is how we defined. We are like creating array which is checking if you're touching the ground. And then we need to repeat the same for velocity. But velocity is not the bool, it's the float. So I'm going to use the float method. And let's go here. Let's copy it. This is the name. And I'm going to take value from the rigid body. So I'm going to use RB, linear velocity x. The same way how we are setting velocity, we can retrieve the value. And finally, let's repeat the same for the y velocity. So y velocity and y velocity y. And of course, we need to execute this method in the update. So let's do here, handle animation. So now everything done, and we're ready to test. Let's keep this window open so we would see what's going on, which animation is played right now. And I'm starting the game. You see its player, it's immediately falling because it was not touching the ground and idle animation is executed. So now I'm going to click left mouse of the button for run to start, and player started to run. And when I jump, it's jumping. Let's do it again. So let's run. So it's jumping and it's everything working as expected. So thank you for your attention. Have a nice day.